Have you ever been battling the blues? You ever gone through a time where you feel like you're sinking in the quagmire of despondency? You have a never-ending doubt. You're swamped with the feelings of hopelessness. You are singing the blues. We have a daughter. Her name is Katie. And one of her favorite songs, and this is how she sings it. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Sometimes we feel as though life is just pressing us down, pushing us to our limits. Everything within us screams to give up. Everything within us screams this is too much. And throughout this coming week, there may be a day or two, probably Thursday, when the campers are, that you may feel like I've got to quit. But as the poet wrote, when things go wrong as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, when you want to smile but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. Life is queer with its twists and turns, and every one of us sometimes learns, and many a failure turns about when he might have won had he stuck it out. Don't give up though the pace seems slow. You might succeed with another blow. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint on the clouds of doubt. You never know how close you are. It may be near when it seems afar. So, stick to the fight when you're hardest hit. It's when things seem worse that you mustn't quit. This weekend, we have been looking at the book of Nehemiah, the beginning of the book. And as we look at this, we see that the building of the wall of Jerusalem got off with a bang. I mean, it was gung-ho. When you realize, and I know I'm skipping to the end of the story, but when you realize that the whole city wall was built in 52 days, that's what? 7.5 weeks? That's not a long time to build the entire wall. They started out, just picture the scene. The children were excited, men, women were excited. They were all doing their jobs. The women were probably cooking the food, and the kids were running around pulling things away. The men were working with gusto. Man, things were going good. Things were going good. When was the last time that you remember something going good? Think about it. Hopefully it wasn't decades ago. When was the last time that you were excited about what was happening? You know, you could feel the excitement in the air. If you just paused, just for a moment, you could see it. Everybody was happy. Things were happening. But when things start going good, there's someone sitting on the outside that wants to throw in his monkey wrench. Obstacles are always going to happen. And this coming week, as you are being counselors, there's going to come obstacles that come your way. We've already experienced some of them with this stove, or lack of such, with the way things are working in the kitchen. There's going to come obstacles. You see, we are told in Southern Watchman, whenever God's people are doing His work, Satan will do his best effort to discourage and dishearten. That's not sometimes. That's not once in a while. Whenever God's people are doing their best to follow His work, Satan is going to throw in a monkey wrench. The newness wears off. Things began to get a little difficult. And we get discouraged. Oh, it's great to talk with the new president, but nothing's happening. Just going by the same thing. Get a different pastor, get a different whatever, you get a different job. We can all think of those times where we reach that point and we wonder, is it worth going on? In Nehemiah chapter 3, we read this. Nehemiah chapter 3 begins to talk about all the sections. This section from here to here was built by these people, and here to here built by these people. Notice here in chapter 3, verse 5, the next section was repaired by the men of Tekoa, but their nobles would not put their shoulders to the work under their supervisors. Everybody else is working, but the nobles were too good to do that. The nobles were refusing to work because, for whatever reason, they felt as though they didn't need to follow what the supervisors were saying. What an epitaph. What I don't want to be written on my tombstone, he refused to work. He refused to do what he was supposed to do. That's what's written on their tombstone. The nobles of Tekoa refused to put their shoulders to the grindstone, refused to work as everyone else was working. What about you? Are we willing to do the menial stuff? Are we willing to wash dishes or sweep floors, or we have to be program director? I don't even know who's program director next week. We want the big jobs. We want the upfront jobs. In church, are we willing to do the little stuff that needs to be done, or do we want to? Well, I can preach better than Craig. God is calling all of us. If we are going to build His kingdom, we all have a task to do. We all have something that we can do. It might be big, it might be small, but God gives us each something to do. And the question is, are we willing to do it? There's something for each of us here in Southeast Alaska. I don't know what Wrangell and Petersburg needs. I don't even know where the church in Petersburg is. I do know where the church in Wrangell is. It was there. Saw that. Thank you, April.
You're welcome.
But what does God want for you? You see, as soon as you stop working, as soon as you stop going and doing what God is calling you to do, something inevitably is going to happen. You are going to be a part of the problem instead of part of the solution. You can't complain if you're rowing the boat. But if you aren't rowing, you're probably rocking. Okay? Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 1. When Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, he became angry and was greatly incensed, and he ridiculed the Jews. The people are ridiculing the efforts of those who are working. They are predicting its failure. What do you think? This is going to build this wall in a day? They're trying to do everything they can to discourage those who are working. There's usually two groups of people. The ones who are doing and the ones who are criticizing those who are doing. The ones who are doing and the ones who think they could do it better, and so since they can't do it, they won't do anything. The question for us is whether we're at camp, whether we're a counselor, and, well, I could do it better than the director. Well, I think Tobin should do this. Well, walk a mile, then complain. Are we holding a trowel or a grudge? Are we helping or hurting? If we're going to be building the kingdom as Nehemiah was seeing, through Nehemiah's eyes, either they were holding a grudge or a trowel. But notice, with all of this, prayer was the first thing that happened. In verses 4 and 5, let's look at this prayer. Normally we wouldn't think this is a very good prayer to pray, but they were pouring their hearts out to God. And God can take our anger. God can take our frustrations. We don't always have to pray, oh, please be with so-and-so, oh, please. We can yell at God. He's big enough. He can handle it. He can handle it. Hear us, O God, for we are despised. Turn their insults back on their own heads. Give them over as plunder in the land of captivity. Boy, they really are liking them, aren't they? Next verse. Do not cover up their guilt and blot out their sins for your sake. In other words, don't be yourself. Don't cover up their sins, for they have thrown insults in the face of the builders. Here, you might not think this is a very good prayer, but at least they're expressing their emotions. At least they are praying to God, praying what they are feeling. And when we are discouraged, when we are down, we need to be open enough to pray what we are feeling. We need to be open enough and have a relationship with God enough that realize, have you ever gotten in an argument with a friend? Husbands, have you ever gotten in an argument with your wife? You better say yes. Otherwise, there's going to be one tonight. We say things. We say things out of passion. We say things. I'm not saying that we should be reckless in what we say, but I am saying our relationship with God should be one that we can be open, honest, and vulnerable with Him. Do you not think He already knows what you think? You aren't hiding anything from Him by not saying what you think. So the first step is prayer. Put things first. Then as we keep looking down through chapter 3 and chapter 4, we come here in chapter 4, and they're here on the brink of success. And in chapter 4, verse 6, so we rebuilt the wall till all of it reached half its height, for the people worked with all their heart. They rebuilt the wall so that the whole wall, not a section of the wall, Brooke, all of the wall reached half its height. Now, I have tried every which way to find out how tall half its height was. I can't find it anywhere. I can't find out how high the wall of Jerusalem was in the time of Nehemiah and Zerubbabel. But you can better believe it wasn't this high. I mean, it was thick, it was tall. Let's just say it was 20 feet high, as high as the ceilings here. Half its height would be higher than the basketball, about the height of the basketball ring. They reached in probably 2 weeks, because it would take, as we discover, it's going to take twice as long to build the last half, because only half of them are working. Probably 2 weeks to build it that high. It reaches half its height. They were excited. The people worked with all of their heart. But then they got the halfway blues. You're halfway through. Do I want to go on? Maybe it's not the halfway point, it might be the 3/4 point. But there comes a time in your life when whatever you're doing, there comes a time in your life that you wonder, is this really what I want to be doing? When I was pastoring, one time we sat down and figured it out, and over the course of the 33, something like that, years that I was in pastoral ministry, we conducted or led or organized 45 different evangelistic campaigns. Only 2 of them were done by the conference. All the rest were either done by our elders or ourselves. One thing that she will tell you, the worst week of the evangelistic campaign of a 5 or 6 week campaign is week 4 or 3. You're going, and you're just starting to get into visitation, and you're going. Can we make it? And I must admit, during that time, I was not necessarily the happiest camper. My children will attest. Please do not talk to my wife afterwards. We all experience at times halfway blues. Whether it's going to be at camp, whether it's going to be as we're trying to revive a church, when whatever we do, how can we battle those halfway blues? The first thing we already saw, and that was starting with prayer, putting the first things first. But notice what happens here. Verse 10 and 11. Meanwhile, the people in Judah said, "The strength of the laborers is giving out, and there is so much rubble that we cannot build the wall." Also, our enemies said, "Before they know it or see us, we'll be right there among them and kill them and put an end to this work." Now, these alarms were coming from people who weren't doing the work. Those of you that are pastors know, those who complain the most do the least. It's just the way things are. That's just a fact of life. And it was the fact of life there in Nehemiah's day as well. But once again, and we've kept coming back. Craig talked about this. I talked about it this morning. I've talked about it now. We keep coming back. Nehemiah keeps coming back to this one thing. And the verse says, "But we prayed to our God and posted a guard night and day to meet the threat." The first thing they did, they're praying to God. I might sound like a broken record, but if it is, break the record some more. That is the only way to move forward is through prayer. But they did another thing. Prayer, because that's the first thing first. But the second thing was they evaluated the situation. You see, what did he do? Go back. The back arrow. But we prayed to our God and posted a guard night and day to meet this threat. They took a serious look. Now go forward. They took a serious look at the situation. Do we need to do something? Not just going to pray and not do anything. God will take care of this. They evaluated it. They figured it. Okay, we're going to post a guard. Just in case the threat is real. Just in case something happens. We evaluated it, look at the seriousness of it, and they acted. They did something about it. As we look at our lives, there are times that we have to sit back and say, is this real? What do we do? Where do we go from here? We have to analyze. And like I talked about what we're going to be doing in October, we're going to be praying in September. In October, we're going to be sitting back and evaluating. Where are we going? What's the vision? Where is God leading us to go? First thing, pray. Second, if we're evaluating, if we are facing the blues, to evaluate. Number 3, verse 21. So we continued the work with half the men holding spears from the first, it should be from instead of for, from the first light of dawn till the stars came out. So they figured out, okay, if there's going to be trouble, if there's going to be people coming, we'll have half the men working and half of them holding spears. So, the last part of the job took the longest, right? Because only half of them were working. The other half were standing guard. But before we look there, I want us to analyze something. Sometimes when we are discouraged, sometimes when we're are we going to move forward? Where is God leading us? We need to keep our eyes on the goal. Because they were saying, I missed this, go back a couple, go back. There, right there. I missed this, just remembered it. Look at this verse. Meanwhile, the people in Judah said, the strength of the laborers is giving out, and there is so much rubble that we cannot build the wall. Where is the wall? Up there. Where is the rubble? Down here. They're focused on the rubble instead of on the wall. Now you can jump forward a bunch of slides. Sometimes we need to make sure that we are focused on the goal. Keep looking at the goal. Forget about the rubble. First, we pray, evaluate, and then we saw that they took soldiers and one person's holding the spear and another person's working. Or they having their sword there and they're working with one hand and they have their spear in the other hand. Working with one hand tied behind their back, you might say. But they're working. They consolidated. They changed direction. They changed circumstances, but they didn't change direction. They still kept going forward. They analyzed. They still kept going forward. In your life with Christ, keep going forward. It doesn't matter how many times you fall. Just always fall forward. And when you get up, you'll be closer. Just keep going forward. First, evaluate, consolidate, and finally, verse 23, neither I nor my brothers, nor my men, those should all be nors, nor the guards with me took off our clothes. Each had his weapon, even when he went for water. What are they doing here? They're ready. Are they stopping? They're all in. They're not taking, I'm not sure I want to be next to them after 3 weeks of working like this. Okay? But they are all in. And they are working, they are dedicated, 100% dedicated to finishing the cause. They have prayed up. They have evaluated, consolidated, and now they are dedicated. And as a result, the city, the walls, which had been 90 years in ruins, 20 years after captivity, still nothing done. You couldn't even go around the city on a horse because he had to get off and walk some because of the rubble. Still, in just over 7 weeks, the entire wall is built. What about us? We can look at all the problems here in the Southeast. The conference doesn't even know we exist. We're isolated. Cost more to come to Ketchikan than it does to go to most anywhere in the lower 48. We can look at all the problems, but that's looking at the rubble, isn't it? Or we can look at the wall. This week, as the kids come with their snotty noses and not knowing how to behave themselves and how they're going to handle being out here without internet service. We can look at all the problems, or we can look at the solutions. The wall is completed in 52 days. I don't know what it is in your life. I don't know what it is in your church, personally. I don't know. But I know that the God that we serve has the power to take something that has been decimated, burnt to the ground, and left there with weeds growing all over it. I mean, think about it. Do you think they had Roundup back then and there hadn't been any growth up through the walls and things? I mean, it was a mess. But God took that pile of rubble, and through people willing to dedicate themselves 100% to God, in 52 days, the wall is built. The question for you, the question for me, as the Sabbath draws to a close, as we begin a new